Hi. This is the beginning of another YouTube, and I want to go really quick over who I am and the purpose, just so you know, but you can look at the past videos. My name is William Nemec. I'm a farmer in Alaska, and my address is in Healy, Alaska, but most of my business was done, and most of my friends are in Nenana, Alaska, and but they call me Healy, Alaska, because that was my address when I was in public office. And it's on the other side of the Rex Bridge. So, but the rest of the people in the country or anywhere in ham radio world, I'm fighting to get my farm back. There was a big violation of ethics and taking my land. I made many, many struggles to get my farm back, and to tell you the truth, it's a really hard way to live. You almost don't survive. I think the last year, the most I ever made was $10,000. Most of that was bartering. Life in the bush farming is very difficult. The only reason they wanted me off my farm was at 10 to 21. It took me a lot of years to realize what I was really up against and the death of a couple of my friends before I finally figured it all out. But anyway, before I get going tonight, I want to tell you about a couple of special people I know. And today's my birthday, and they're here, and I want you to meet somebody. So you guys come here. This is the two future Alaskans here. When I get home and get my land back, we will be here. But anyway, come out here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a future Alaskan here. This is Jeff and Fitzy. And they're going to be farming in Kobiak with me. And anyway, and that's my birthday, so I just wanted to show off who they are. Happy birthday. Thank you. And anyway, I got blessed with children, and they're the most blessing a man could ever want. I'm proud of them. They're very terrific kids, and they make me happy, and they belong in Alaska. And it's kind of funny for me, because when all this is cleared up, when I get back to Nenana, I got many friends of my Nana that are, what we're going to say. Many of my friends in Nenana are working with George Hall, and very good people there, many friends. And I get to go there, and I'm going to say to my friends, I want to introduce my two children, that they're from a different tribe, because these people here are Taboli tribal people. And so I was kind of excited to tell them about who they are, because they look like they're from Nenana, but they're from Southeast Asia. They're called Taboli tribe. And these kids are very smart, and they're very normal, I guess you would say. Anyway, getting back down to the rock and roll and knock it down to clean up things, a big subject I want to touch on right now is in Alaska, Agenda 21. Now remember, I learned about all this power and controlling issue in the social influence circle later. It took me many years to find out what I was really fighting against. I got attacked many, many times, almost lost my farm 2-3 times already before they finally took it. And I got to tell you, one of the instances that happened, the existence of Denali Borough. Now, at the end of the times when things got really hot, I was getting Kobiak out of Denali Borough. I found a way. I was going to use a petition with the people and kick them out. And Denali Borough had funded some things, and that was my area where I was a representative, but I wanted to not be a representative anymore. I ran for Congress, and then I'm a farmer. I wanted to stay home and be left alone, but it's just not going to happen. But anyway, now I don't even have a place to farm. Not right now. Oh, by the way, my place is grown up in weeds and trash. It's a real mess. It's going to take forever to clean it up. But anyway, one more thing about my farm. The judge gave me back my combine and my John Deere tractor. And that was to entice me to go there for that false warrant, I think, but I didn't go for it. I don't know what the whole story is. I can come up with enough conspiracy theories and ideas myself. But if you don't really know, best to leave it be. But anyway, the thing of it is, let's go back to Agenda 21 and the Denali Borough. One of the things that happened when the Denali Borough come to invest us, and then all of a sudden these political pushes that wanted the borough, that was not the Boundary Commission, was not an issue of the state. It was an outside push of a belief from an inside inferior people. They wanted this socialist utopia. So anyway, what happened is they wanted to make the Denali borough a sister borough and build another government with it. And this other government was in the Soviet Union, Russia, so not Soviet Union anymore, Russia. And so they have the same people that are involved in building the borough against everybody's will, pretty much, and they got it through. Anyway, these same people want us to build a colonial dialectic movement of being part of Russia under the UN. So the politicians from a newly formed borough in Russia came to Alaska, and they bring a totem pole of a gift of their camaraderie, their joint agreement. And anyway, they're over here, and they want a sister borough with the Soviet Union. You see, this Agenda 21 and this belief in world government is very old. The first time it happened is World War I, League of Nations. It's not new to have crackpots. But Alaska is the last frontier, so you get the toughest and the roughest and the meanest and the most bushiest to come out in the frontier, and they want to grab something for themselves, make their own dynasty, make their own way that they can't do somewhere else. It's not accepted there. So the two conflicting things in Alaska is the American frontiersman, loving, hardworking, patriotic man that wants to be free and wants to trap and hunt and mine and be left alone and have a real life. And then the other side is the socialist that wants to come over to this side of the country and build a utopia of socialism that they can't build somewhere else because they got too much opposition. But in Alaska, they can grab her down. Well, this thing got powerful where big money of the UN got pushing from all different directions. Now, this is the thing. The Denali borough was supposed to be the sister borough with a borough in the Soviet Union. They actually flew over here, and they were building this whole thing together. Well, I'm in office. I'm not very happy about that one. Anyway, they had to leave. And then now the totem pole got rotten and somebody went and sawed it off in Healy. But the thing of it is this movement I told you about in the last video, still written down up here, Mississippi, 1956 to 1977. Let's write that down here, not 58. 1977. Finally got disbanded. You see, government can go amok. It can have a special interest in a popular thing in the culture, or popular idea, a lot Marxism or world order, world dominance for a world order, and all this crazy stuff that we're seeing all over everything now, especially in the universities. And I'll tell you about them in a minute. But anyway, remember, if you can go to the south, in the southern state, and you can have people twist that much. Just think what you can do in Alaska with billions of dollars of oil and everything that Alaska has to offer. I'm going to tell you something. Alaska is a political battleground. And we're going to rock and roll, lock and load and rock and roll because they're going to go. You know, when I took my oath as a soldier, it was to defend the United States Constitution, both foreign and domestic. But when this man went on a cross, that wasn't nothing but the biggest revolution the world ever seen, and the greatest thing that's ever happened. You would have no constitution if it wasn't for that Bible. The thing of it is that the educational systems, I want to touch on that really quick. When I was campaigning for governor, I went around the University of Alaska. I like it there. At the end of the pipeline, we were all pretty poor, and everybody's struggling along. There's no jobs. There's bankruptcies everywhere. And a lot of us live in the bush. You could, Fairbanks, you had to be a billionaire at that time. So what happened was, many times we'd get together and take a shower at the college. At that time, at the end of the pipeline, showers were free at the college and the gun shows were free. And we would go in there, and the university was a terrific place. University was supposed to be basically a school of agriculture and mining, now it's kind of out of trade. But I want to touch on something in my history to tell you about me, something that I learned. When I was a young fella in the Army, I had a good friend that I made that was a lieutenant in the Panzers under Adolf Hitler. And he was a good man, and he managed the American housing area. And after I got moved all over the world, they put me in Germany. Anyway, so I'm making a friend with this man, and we talk a lot, and he's really good. He was so intelligent, he could read the old Oxford English and say it. I mean, this guy was really sharp, really well-educated. He was a lieutenant in the Panzers in World War II. He said at the end of the war, the German soldier was more interested in American baseball. They didn't think America, the war had been rough on the country. They didn't think so. At first, they hate Americans, hate the enemy. But he said by the end of the war, he said some crazy things fighting Americans you should know. And he said, we would plant landmines, he said, because everybody knows there's an open field. In an open field, when the troops go across, they never cross an open field because there's landmines, so you go around the edge. And he said an American soldier doesn't think like a soldier that way. He said where you would think to put the landmines, and then what would be the traditional way, the American soldiers wouldn't even go that way. They'd be smoking cigarettes and goofing off. He said they would walk in an area where there wouldn't be any, and where they laid the landmines, it would be buried, they wouldn't walk through it. So it got crazy, because everybody knows the landmine area, don't walk through a plowed field, because it's easy to cover them up in the war, but the Americans walk right through the middle. He said, anyway, that's one of the stories he told me. Anyway, he told me about Nazi Germany. He told me that at the end of the war, he said that in his unit, everybody's saying they want to quit fighting. He said, we lost the war, and I want to go home. And I'm going to tell you the most hated thing he said in his armor unit. He said they hated the Gestapo. He said more than any American soldier. He said if you were complaining in the ranks, they had people spying everywhere. He said right in their own army. He said if you were complaining in the ranks about wanting to go home and the war should be over, we lost, they would come and call you out in front of everybody and you would get executed. He said they would kill their own men. He said the war was horrible. And he was telling me about the falling of society. He was a well-educated man, so he was telling me about the universities in Germany. And, I'm a young boy then. I was a boy sergeant, they used to call me. I don't know what you call me, but anyway. Anyway, he told me, he said that the social climate started changing in Germany, and after World War I was really bad. And he said the leadership of world dominance and superior race and all that stuff, he said this started growing and growing in the universities. He said the universities is where the brown shirts, the Nazi power machine, the National Socialist Party of Germany is bred and expanded and grown. It got into the educational system, and that was a big hurrah, the big improvement, the big new way, the big happy thing to have a prosperous nation. Now, the reason I brought all this stuff up at the university, one thing that Adolf Hitler said, and he was telling me, Adolf Hitler said he's losing because he can't make the filing system work quick enough. He said if he had a way to computerize, got that one, a way to make the filing system work fast and accurate, he could control the world. He actually said that. Now we got the internet, we got the UN, we got the Silicon Valley problems and all of the things facing us. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that the end is, there's some bad times out there, especially with AI. Artificial intelligence, believe me, somebody is controlling the artificial intelligence because somebody intelligent is using it. How smart does that take to be? But anyway, back at the time of that in my life, now that I got older, everything kind of all fits together. But the thing of it is, I wanted to tell you about Germany. Germany was hit because Germany was a place where they printed the first Bible. Germany was a place in Europe where strength and goodness showed up first. And so why do you think it's attacked and torn down? Why do you think America's getting attacked and torn down? And Alaska is getting torn down. The thing of it is I wanted to be a farmer and be left alone. My farm was beautiful. I converted everything to biochar. And I had biochar cookers, and I built a special manure spreader with a steel floor, and I had equipment, and I had gotten a hold of a whole pressing facility for making my own fuel out of canola. And I was setting up my farm to make canola to run my tractor. Now, I wanted a 2-cylinder John Deere's tractors, and I rebuilt them and had a small machine shop, and I built my own parts for a lot of things because they had 350 pounds of compression per cylinder. I could burn canola or about any fuel, and I believed that bad times were coming, and I wanted to be able to have my own tractor fuel so I wouldn't be, because I didn't think I'd be able to buy anymore because of the war coming. I was always preparing. That's why I had a ham radio and much equipment. Everything was set up where I was self-contained. I was a self-contained Mennonite type of farm to me. Now that word I use is pertaining to me, not an organizational one. Don't get the wrong idea. But anyway, kick number one I want you to tell you about is do some research for me and look around. They called it the sister borough. And it didn't go through the U.S. Senate. There was no agreement in Congress. You can't bring another country's people over here and build a joint government with them, especially if they're not a democratic republic. I mean, at that time, Russia was pretty different. And I'm going to tell you something else that was illegal about the Russians coming over here. Under the law in Russia, it was also illegal. The Russian government would not approve of them in Moscow to come over here and build a government with Americans, but this group of people that created Denali Borough, they got this thing of a left-wing colonial dialectic Agenda 21 world order stuff is implanted for a long time, and that's what I've been fighting and losing my farm, hurt my family, missed many disagreements, many hard times, and I didn't realize until I went to court and got beat up a couple of times, losing everything, what was really going on, especially with the death of Joe Vogler. Joe Vogler was my friend. I didn't always agree with him. I liked him. He was a miner, and I learned from Joe Vogler and a friend of mine, Carl Heflinger, more than I'd ever learned in any college. And Carl Heflinger is gone too now, but he was a genius. My friend Carl Heflinger was asked by the Smithsonian Institute, I can't even say the word, Smithsonian Institute, to set up a mining program to show the world. Carl Heflinger went over there. He taught me about prospecting. He taught me about mining, how to look for gold, all the indicators, how to read the land, how to measure land, how to use economic assessments of your land and see if it's worth mining or not, and to see if it can pay or not. And Carl Heflinger is gone now. I think he lived to 105, and I admired him. And he was a good guy. He was a tough guy. And another friend of mine that's gone now was named Ed Montgomery. He's also gone. He mined up the creek for me too. Anyway, going back to Alaska. Your belief in yourself as an Alaskan, that you're going to go build you a cabin or mining or fishing, and fishermen start out with nothing. They do anything to get a boat, and then they get old junker and fix it up, and here they go. I knew Jay Hammond a little bit, and one time I went to the Palmer Fair with him. He was pretty old then, and he told me about making the Alaska dividend, and it isn't what they want today. They didn't want the dividend program to be like it is today at all. And the dividend program was supposed to be separate because, you see, in 1972, a law called FLIPA come out, land where you kind of lost your right to own property in America. A lot of people don't know what Federal Land Management Procedures Act was, but it was pretty serious. That was the end of Alaska open homesteading on federal land. And that's made a lot of changes. It changed a lot of things. And anyway, it had an impact on us. And I'm going to tell you a few things, because I would like you to do research and look backwards, upside down. You need to look yourself. And I'm going to encourage you to, what Bob Bettesworth used to holler at me, look, hear, see, and think. And he did. And he taught me to do that differently than I knew. I thought I knew something till he let me know so many mean words. I didn't know nothing. And by gosh, you know what? I heard every word he told me. And after knowing him a while, I realized that there's a man that loves Alaska to be free. Anyway. But anyway, just remember that prejudice doesn't have to be racism. Prejudice can be controlling anything in somebody's political body, taking away your right to pursue happiness. You know, the Constitution of the United States guarantees us a right to happiness. Well, when you take a social body that's a law obedient, but somebody else wants a special agenda, and you take that right away, you're breaking the law. Yeah, you're breaking the law. That's why we have soldiers. That's why we have an army. We have an army to defend the Constitution, not to take money, not to take oil, not to manipulate the world, not to control everything. We have a Constitution because we have a Bible. And that's why we have that. And anyway, so my big pick on right now in this meeting is Agenda 21 and the Denali Boroughs movement to build a government in tune and together in joint measurement with the Soviet Union. And that's what they were doing. When all this was going on and the fight was heavy, it got worse and worse. So finally one document went up to build some rules for the people living in McKinley Village. And I'm on the assembly and I said, well, the people in McKinley Village, I'm going to bother them. Well, there was a little group of special interest in McKinley Village that wanted a bunch of rules. So I fought it in the Borough Assembly. So one document come across there, and then they're pretty upset. And I said, well, remember, when you give me something, I'm going to look here, see, and think. I'm going to segregate. I'm going to label and segregate every issue to what the real meaning is and how does it compare to the law on rights. And they didn't like that very much. But anyway, so one assembly member, he comes up with some real left-wing explanation and writings. So I read it, and we used the Robert's Rules of Order, which I didn't follow very well. And then I used to have my friend Jim Caswell correcting me every once in a while. But anyway, so what happened was he made a movement by something like, they know better than the people there. They got more experience, so they're going to tell them what's best for them. And I didn't like that, so I said, well, that sounds like a big brother government to me. So I something of that effect, and I said, so let me ask you something after reading this. I need to learn something about this. And I need to learn about you, sir, and other assemblymen. And I said, do you believe in communism? And boy, that was a bad thing to say. Anyway, in a public meeting, they went after me. So they pressed charges against me and tried to get removed politically from the Borough Assembly. So then it gets worse and worse and worse. Well, what I said was I asked a question about an idea and to explain what he thought. I didn't call him a name. I didn't say he was a communist. I asked him what he was believing or what is this? That's what it looks like to me. I said, can you explain that? Anyway, so they get out their socialist guillotine of movements against me and they have a special meeting in my honor in Healy, Alaska. And they're going to kick me out of office. So I go to Healy, Alaska, and they have this big meeting, and at that time they were building on the school, so you had this big office in front of the school, and we packed in about 300 people in there, and we have a desk where you sit across from each other, and the first mayor, my friend Rick Brewer, is there, and then this is where I kind of crossed the line, I guess. What happened was we're in a meeting and debating, and this other assemblyman's pretty nasty. And he's across the table from me, and he got mad, and he spit in my face. Well, I got to tell you what, I'm pretty much rural Alaskan. I wasn't happy about that one. So then I told him, I said, sir, you're elected in public office. You should never act that way. And I says, what do you think you're doing, spitting on me? And I was mad, because that's when the AIDS thing come out and all that stuff. And I thought, boy, this guy's mad. Why would he spit on me? Anyway, so then I told him, I got mad and I threatened him. And I said, sir, don't you ever do that again in front of all these people. And it's kind of out of control. Well, what happens, the reason I'm telling you this to show you an effort in the public that has to be met. You got to do what you got to do, even ones that don't look good. Anyway, so what happened was we go along in a meeting, and this guy's getting really just up the walls. So then when they read the record, I said, well, let's read the record. Okay, now, I said, now that you've read the record, look at it real close. I never called anybody a communist. I said, is this what you believe? Please explain your reasoning to how you make the decision to build this thing for McKinley Village. Well, crap hit the fan end. Anyway, he jumped up and he spit in my face again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not perfect. I come over to that bench and I had it. And Rick Brewer, the mayor, is grabbing me, and everybody ran for the door, and the meeting was over. That was the end of the kicking William Nemec out of office movement. But I'm going to tell you something. How far a person would go, how far will they trespass, how far will they lose their ethics before they're not going to be a man, they're going to be a boy. So what I'm telling you is I might be an exile of Southeast Asia, and I might be crying on everybody's shoulder, but I'm not running from this one. I want to come home, I want my land back, and I want Alaskans to be free. And I want that election system cleaned up. When you want to vote for somebody in Alaska, it's not your second and third idea if that one wasn't good enough. What a manipulating crap a crock that is. That's unbelievable that anybody would even conceive to do that. And I can tell you something else. It didn't come from there. There's an outside interest of world dominance, and Alaska is the direct threat to Agenda 21. The rural Alaskan native and the rural Alaskan homesteader and miner, they don't want anything in their life but freedom to be left alone in their own rights. And they're not going to give them up without a fight. So now the fight's on. Well, the thing of it is that I had a good friend of mine that was a tribal chief. He's passed away now. And I'm going to tell you something a lot of people don't know. And I'm going to tell you about government, something that I believe. I believe in a republic. In most tribal governments, not all, but most tribal governments in Alaska, they're fast and they're active and they're accurate. If they have a problem with something, if they have a chief that's not being good or something's wrong, boom, new election, cleaned up, changed, fixed immediately. They are sound republics, and they're very constitutional-minded of checks and balances. You got to admire that. Now, anyway, that's rural Alaska. So I hear something when I'm running for governor. Oh, now we want to accept tribal governments and their fair representation of their power and who they are. Recognize them by the state legislature. And I couldn't believe they said that. Recognize them. You know, the state legislature can learn a few things about being fast, accurate, and caring about people. Ladies and gentlemen, in a tribal government, I can talk about it because I'm not there and not part of it. I've been with it, but not part of it. This is the thing. The job of a tribal leader is to love his people and take care of safety and take care of them, and he doesn't. He doesn't worry about what one lawyer's going to say or what some lawsuit's going to be or if he can say something or act something or not something. He goes and takes care of people and takes care of their problem. To me, tribal government, like the Bush, that's family government, and I think it's important. And I think you can stereotype anybody you want, native, white, or any color, or do anything for a political power and a political promise and a big handle on popularity. That don't work in a village. The love and understanding of tribal government is tremendously good. In the tribal government, you honor the elder. You show respect for the elders. It's a good way. And it's their own way, and they need to be left alone. Leave people alone. Don't get your nose in their business because they know their business. You might know their business, but a tribal government knows their business pretty much most of the time. And so I would tell you, for one thing, Alaska is a beautiful place with a beautiful culture. Thousands and thousands of different cultures and ideas involved in just a few people. It's amazing. You've got Russians in Alaska. You've got many different original ideas and different cultures. And it's a beautiful place. Anyway, so back what I want to lead on, my big subject today is the Denali Borough being part of Russia. Now, anybody that thinks that you can do that, but go through the U.S. to the Senate and through many processes, you can't do that. I mean, it's crazy, but it's abolished now. But that's what's been going on. Alaska is far away, and the special interest is heavy there. And now that you look back on the deaths that's happened and the different things in Alaska, you can't cover it up anymore. And so I want to tell you something else I know. They have profiles on Alaska residents. You know, this law I was telling you, 1956, 1977, the Sovereignty Commission in Mississippi had records on individuals. Many controlling society like Adolf Hitler wanted to do. Well, they did it. In Alaska, they're doing it right now. You find a state trooper, and many of them, they aren't going to say nothing too loud because they don't want to get fired. But the thing of it is they keep a record. And when, like me, if I could look in my file, I'd be pumped surprised. I must have a pretty good one. And I'll tell you something. Years ago, I had a conflict. I was serving papers, Department of Labor, from the court. And I got into big trouble, and it got bad. And I ended up in charges against me, and it got terrible, and people were injured. And I was a young man, and I was a little bit overzealous for the law. You know, I was serving papers. And then anyway, when crap hit the fan, they had felony charges of me, and I had this no life anymore. Well, what happened was Alaska, in them days, wasn't completely overrun yet. The governor knew about it, and they and a lot of other people, and state troopers, and a judge, and other people, influential people, wrote the governor, and they said, "You need to help William Nemec there. He's getting a problem." And he was trying to serve papers in the Department of Labor, and they got the felony charges against him for assault. And I said he was, and so the governor, he gave me a clean bill of health, and he cleaned it all up, and he took care of me. And I was thanking the Lord for that one. I'm going to tell you, I was really fit to be tied. And the thing of it is life has its bumps in it. You got to be ready to take some if you want to be a free person and have freedom. And you got to, the biggest thing, hard thing in life is to admit when you're wrong. And the governor said, he said, you can't serve papers yourself. You can't. Alaska's changing. You're going to have to go a different route, and you can't go out and make it work. Alaska's different. You're becoming different. And he said, you're going to have to learn that. And yes, sir. So he gave me, I made a promise, yes, sir. Anyway, I never did it. So one of the reasons I'm in Southeast Asia is I'm trying to avoid violence. Now, when the warrants come out on me and different papers against me, if a state trooper was there, you see, one time I lost a lot of stuff. I lost my ham radio collection, and I lost some artifacts that were worth more than my farm. Well, they took a photo of them, of what they were doing, and sent it to me, and I got mad. And I wanted to go out and get my stuff, and I was told that I can't go on my own land. There was no legal thing to stop me from going on my own land. I was trying to be enticed, but they told me, don't come here, you can't come here. Well, there was no paper saying I can't come there, but they were trying to get me to go there. And so what happened was, my friend in Anderson and my other friend in Healy, when I'm on the way out there, they grabbed me and they says, Bill, you're not thinking, don't go out there because you're emotional and they're wanting you to go. Well, I backed off and I left. Now I'm going to tell you something about law enforcement. Law enforcement is hard. If you're an officer of the law and you're told to do something, you got to obey your orders, or you're disobeying your commander or whatever. So when the government gets a little squirrely, you got a bad job trying to uphold the law, which is hard. So I want to tell you something. You should really respect Alaska State Trooper and be good to him, because he carries a lot of weight right now. And if he ever needs a friend, it's you. And you see, my friends that I know, they're retired and some are passed on. They would give their life to help you and to keep you safe. No doubt about it. And they didn't care about trying to be a brown shirt for a socialist regime or nothing. All they cared about was the rule of law and loving their neighbor Alaskan men. And that's many people are like that still. So I got a friend, and I don't say the name, but she's a woman, and she's a new state trooper, and I knew her all of her life, and she's a tremendously good police officer. And so I want to tell you, law and order is needed. But Mississippi, 1956 to 1977. What are we going to call the Alaska thing that happened at the election? Alaska controlling interest to mess up in DNR. What do we call that right now? Because there's another bad element that has to be cleaned. That's why I'm here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to look at this video. I'm just a regular homesteader farmer. I like to brag about my farm, so I tell you a little more about it. I was the first person, I believe, in the Nenana Valley to ever raise grain and have a combine. Pretty sure I did a lot of research. My combine is there yet, but I can't go there. But anyway, the woman that has my farm, she's not interested in farming. She was interested in me. And what taking my farm was nothing to do with farming or money or land. It was shutting up Bill Newton, getting him out of the way. And what they did was put me over here. It didn't shut me out. And ladies and gentlemen, I think if you're helping me, I'm not out of their way. I'm right in front of them. Now, when I was in front of the U.S. District Attorney, Assistant U.S. District Attorney, it was pretty crazy. When I watched the body language when I got in there, he knew all about me before I could go there. I could tell when I was talking to him. And he told me just like this. He said, Mr. Nemec, he says, no matter what you're showing or doing or anything, he says, I will not help you, and I'm not going to help you. And I was about in tears because I'm a veteran. And I said, sir, I'm a veteran. To me, the federal attorney, the district attorney, is like a Thomas Jefferson. I said, he's like a holder of America. I said, you're really hurting me bad. I was in tears and I was mad. And I left assistant deputy, whatever you call him, district attorney's office in Fairbanks. But the VA had tried to get me to see him in there. And then the VA come back and said, before you get in there, we think your proper thing is, because the VA can't get involved in politics, there's a federal law in it. They said, you need to see the governor. So this is before I filed for election. I got a hold of a secretary for the governor, and they wanted to see me, and then they ignored me. I couldn't talk to nobody. And then I turned around and ran against him. But the thing of it is, the reason this is a problem is that in the beginning of my other trial that I was in, I tried to tell the lieutenant governor from the last time I was run off of Southeast Asia. I called the lieutenant governor and I told him, and his secretary's there live on the phone, he's listening, and they're talking, and she's the one doing the talking right there. Anyway, I told him that the judge that I got, his law firm used to represent me, and I said, it didn't go well, and now he's the judge. And I said, I tried to disqualify him. I told the lieutenant governor that another judge, that I won't say his name, I still won't say his name, he told me to apply himself to that judge because he knew about my other trial. And he said, you tell that judge that he's not qualified to disqualify himself. And I did that, and he wouldn't do it. But anyway, it got more and more complicated, and it went on and on. But I'm going to tell you that forgiveness is important, but I'm pretty upset with that judge because this last time I was in court, the judge was getting ready to retire. He's associated himself with the other time that I'm in court, and he's not my judge, but he is working with the person that is breaking my contract. I couldn't believe it. And so it's kind of triple jeopardy with that fellow. Anyway, so if I think his retirement pension needs to go to the place at Minto where they help people, Old Minto. They got a school at Old Minto helping people to get in trouble. I think they should take, my opinion is, maybe I'm kind of mean, they should take his pension and give it to Old Minto or something. I'm not happy. But the thing of it is, I'm probably not representing God's love the way that I should be, so maybe I'm too far off the line. But the thing of it is that the point of this is that you need to know that I've been pardoned or sentence removed, and then I went into public office trying to fix it. And in 2 terms of office, it got worse and worse. But then I loved for my country, I ran for U.S. Congress, and I couldn't fix that one either. And I got into a fight with that one, and it got crazy. It got all the way to arguing with Clinton. But anyway, well, that's a long story. But anyway, that was another issue. But when they had the main debate when I ran for Congress in Fairbanks, I was a number 3 contender through the primary, and they wouldn't let me in the debate. So then I called this special lawyer outfit that you have when you're qualified for Congress, and they told me that I could sue the city of Fairbanks because that debate was held and it was paid for with tax money. When it's tax money in a debate, then the law is different and I can sue them. Well, I believe in God as a Mennonite. I'm not going to sue nobody for money for infraction of the law that way, but it got to that point. I violated, and so I got upset with a thing called Project Vote Smart. Project Vote Smart was invented by, I think, Gerald Ford. But anyway, Project Vote Smart was a system where no matter who you were, once you're qualified to run for Congress, you can get some press coverage equally. And so I got that. So I got the documentation in Project Vote Smart for what the issues were. There was a few multiple choice questions, and all the multiple choice questions were UN Senate, one way or the other. And my program was to get the UN, to get out of the UN. And so anyway, I'd answer it, and then they had a little paragraph you could fill out yourself. So I got upset, and I called Washington, and I said, hey, I want to contest Project Vote Smart. The federal law says any election alliances like this, you have a right to checks and balances system. So then I get a hold of them. Sorry, I don't look at the camera much. I'm not a Hollywood guy. But anyway, so I get a hold of them and I call them, and then I told them my grievance, and I said, well, who's of your grievance committee? What can I do? Because these questions are UN involved. No matter which way I answer, yes or no, I'm supporting an issue I don't like because the way you worded the questions, and I'm not going to go for that one. You're violating the rights of the voters to have representation in an election. You're going to fix it. I want the questions changed, or you let me write what I want. So then, so what do you want? And I said, I want the chairman. Well, there's no chairman. And I said, there has to be. Look into it. Well, the chairman would have to be the President of the United States. Oh, and I was mad then, so I guess I said the wrong word. I said, oh, Slick Willie. Okay, fine. I want to file a grievance with the President. And I'm running for Congress. And then, crap broke loose. And I filed my grievance to the President. Anyway, that happened in 1996. Yeah, 1996. Anyway, and that didn't go any farther. But I want to tell you something. The rural Alaskan is tough. He fights sickness, health, no food, no work. Sometimes life is hard. Sometimes you can be a trapper and trap all winter and come out with nothing. I've been that way. And then, there's sometimes in Alaska it's boom and bust. Sometimes there's no work, and sometimes there's work everywhere when you're young. And so I paid a lot of price to get my land and my farm, and they don't own it. They need to get off my land. But anyway, when my process was going through the court, I realized that I was going to lose no matter what I did. They just wanted me out. So I took bills of sale, and I 100% bill of sale my whole farm away from the court before they took it. and gave it to the person on the other side of the fence and say, you own it all, because my intent was if a private person owns it, even if they don't like me, they privately own it, I can buy it back, or I can negotiate it back, or have a way to get it back. Well, this judge that believes in total socialism, he violates the law, and he takes control of it and doesn't let them own it that way. So my bills of sale and my quitclaims deeds are all non and void. Well, that's against the law, but they've already broken so many laws. Now one more isn't going to make any difference. But I was trying to get my farm back that way. So that didn't work either, and that's when it got worse and worse. So then, anyway, I fought as hard as I can, the best I can, but I can't use public funding the right, wrong way, or any kind of bad politics because of my faith. I got to be honest and clean in what I'm fighting for, and I am. I'm trying. I'm not perfect. I goof up, but anyway. So one of the things I want to tell you in this meeting to look at is the Denali Borough making a deal with the Russians. That's only one of the small ideas that I fought, and that's a big one. And I want to tell you in the future some other things so you know. I'm going to tell you about a crooked election where they stole the ballots and rewrote them. I can prove that one maybe if I can get somebody to testify that was a witness or not. I have a witness, but I don't know what's going to happen with that. But I do have a witness. Anyway, and that's another thing. And another thing that's happened is there's a time when a judge wiretapped, listen to me, wiretapped a phone in a criminal case prosecuting somebody, and I know about the wiretap. And the judge knew I knew about it. And at that time, there was so much political control, and I was helpless to do anything, and I was younger than now. It would have been maybe a little different idea. But I want to tell you that the court case of the judge finding somebody guilty or not guilty, if they're not allowed to have a fair representation, or there's criminal intent of breaking the law in the case by the prosecution, the court's verdict is no good. They need to change it, because when there's a violation of that intent by the prosecution, which was the state of Alaska, it needs to be turned over. And if I get elected again, or I have the opportunity, I'm going to go fix that one. And another thing that needs to be done is the felony system in Alaska is too much social engineering and controlling. We need to clean it up, and a bunch of people need to be pardoned. And Alaska needs to have hope and dreams reinstated. And it's important to me. Now, I'm on the end of the world out here where I live. Life is kind of hairy. A lot of people that live where I live wouldn't even want to do it. They'd be scared, I know. And I love it here, and I make friends here, and I got, well, you've seen them. Anyway, the thing of it is that life is as free as you're willing to stand up and keep it. And that's why we're having this. This is about the end of this video. But I wanted to go over things you don't know. One of them is I do not have a criminal record, and one of them is that the governor made it that way. And another thing is that the Russians do not own or working with the Denali Borough anymore. They're not part of it. This is all, again, leading to the death of some people. I didn't know at the time, when Joe Vogler went to the UN, he started all of this power play in Alaska thing by busting some heads around there and things in areas he didn't know. He actually thought they were working in his favor at the UN, and he didn't realize that he stuck his foot out there with the freedom and idea of independence of the real Alaska that scared the UN group pretty good. Then they started putting their magnifying glass on Alaska. But the idea that he was going to be holding the Constitution as Alaska's framework for government 100% didn't work. But the after effect is here. When they tried to kick Wally Hickel out for being governor, that was another step. And finally,
Sarah Palin was the last one to get the boot. And Sarah Palin, of course, got pushed out. But a lot of people don't know this, but she probably didn't have any choice. And so what had happened, that she didn't have a Mrs. Hickle fighting for her. I'm going to tell you something, that Mrs. Hickle, Wally, I don't think would have made it if she wouldn't have been there. But the thing of it is that we had a lot of good things. Dick Randolph, he did a lot of good for Alaska when he was young. And you should be proud of him. Anyway, I'm going to close the thing for today, but I wanted to tell you one thing to look at. And I'm going to keep coming up with issues, and I'm going to keep pushing until you see something. This woman in Colorado, if she's involved in the government or not, I don't know what she's doing exactly. And the word government isn't fair because there's good people there. But this is what I want. And you can tell Governor Dinwiddie this. William Nemec wants the title to his farm back, and he wants that person reimbursed, and he wants it back because it's wrongfully taken, and I lost everything in my world to hang on to my right to be a free Alaskan and live in the bush, and I am just beginning to come down your road. Because you see, the rule of law is the winner. And you see the thing, this isn't made on mean or hatred. This is made on love. Love for justice and love for the right thing. So when you make accusations of me of being a violent man and a dangerous man, I get you got to understand something. I didn't do that violently or make a danger, because when Alaska State Trooper has to come up to you, he's following orders. He doesn't know the political incentive behind it. And you have to be careful with young law enforcement because they don't know. And it's easy to manipulate a situation out of control. You won't do that with me because I love the rule of law, ladies and gentlemen. And I think we have the right to stay free in the bush. And we're going to keep Alaskan bush lifestyle, and we're going to fight for it. If I'm fighting to be a rural Alaskan homesteader from Southeast Asia and can't go home, guess what? I'm still Alaska homesteader, and I'm still fighting for freedom. And the thing of it is, this is my deal. Governor Dinwiddie, I want my land back. I want to be left alone. I want the woman reimbursed. I don't want any monies. I lost, I think, over $350,000. I don't want nothing from you. I won't take it, but I will take my title back. And I will keep pushing and pushing, because you see, I worked hard and I earned it, sir. I earned it. I earned it by a hard knocks, a hard life, and a hard, cold time sometimes. But anyway, this is the thing. My brothers and sisters in rural Alaska, they need to have their rights and protected. And DNR needs to be watched from taking away heritage rights and things that they've been committing. And we need to look at that closely. Anyway, I'm going to close for today, but I want to tell you that I'm going to start showing things more and more detailed and more stronger, especially about surveillance. I'm going to work with an action committee all over. We're going to look here, see, and think. We're going to watch, because you're not going to keep records on Alaska citizens the way you're doing it. You see these people in Mississippi? They got away with it from 1956 to 1977. You're not doing it in Alaska anymore. A state trooper's job is not to be a brown shirt. He's to uphold the law, not to build a socialist Utah or Marxist utopia, whatever you want to call it. It's going away. We have the right under the Constitution to preserve freedom and happiness. And anyway, I could, if you were the believers, I could use your prayer. I'm on the edge of the world, on the edge of the edge. And guess what? He's still up there. So the thing of it is that when Dr. Wood and Joe Vogler and Bobby Miller and I, when we wrote the last volunteer petition, and Jim Ballwer, by the way, has passed away. He's no longer with this man that called us Marshall. But anyway, they were blessed people. All these guys that helped me were tremendously good Alaskans, and also I miss them. And, I miss Bobby Miller a lot. I knew Bobby Miller since I was really young, and he's gone. And then Joe Vogler, he's buried in Canada. He was an interesting thing. The thing you need about him is he graduated law school in 1936, and he was pretty smart. He called God Yahweh. The Bible calls him God Yahweh in some places, and Joe would pray, and he called the Lord Yahweh. I never forget that. And anyway, let's see. Another thing I'm doing is I'm working at getting my license in this country, and I'm working hard at it. I'll have it in a little while here, and then I'll be able to contact more and more. But the thing of it is if you don't back up and you don't back away, you stand and be an American, you're going to remain one. And if you reject that controlling powers that's coming along this way, like this book says to reject it, you will stay free until the day Jesus takes you home. You will be free. And so, anyway, I thank you for your time again. And this is the second one I did today. It's my birthday. And I just wanted to kind of celebrate and be thankful. I am thankful to the Lord that I've had a life in Alaska bush. I'm thankful to the Lord that I've had many friends. And I'm thankful to the Lord for many people that have had to forgive me sometimes because, us rural Alaskans, we get a little rough around the edges. And I thank you for them and everything. And one thing I would ask you to do that's very important. I think, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a believer or not, and you can whisper to yourself, but I think you need to pray for America, pray for Alaska, and pray that the divisions of people that's made by the people in power today, they make a black man and a white man not like each other, or one special privilege over the other. They take racism and invert it inside out and say they're trying to remove it. Don't be foolish. If your neighbor is different than you, and you love him, you've just removed racism. If you care about him, or you accept him, and you're good to him, there's no such thing, no such animal. So, in Alaska, we don't have that problem too much unless it's created by politicians in front of us. A lot of us live in a bush, and we don't believe in that whatsoever. We believe in everybody's the same, of course, because we all suffer in a cold winter together. But the thing of it is it's hard for me to figure out how to say goodbye until the next meeting. So I'm going to close in prayer again. Dear Lord, we pray for Alaska, and we pray for freedom, and we pray for those to accept each other that don't agree with each other and don't like what each other is. But to be an Alaskan is to do that. To be Alaskan is to stay out of somebody else's life and personal beliefs and personal ideas. If you're oppressing them and you're being harmful, you should not do that. You should respect their right as your fellow Alaskans to be free. And I believe that. I believe that love is shown by your example, not by your push of control of government and rules. That doesn't work. Anyway, so I ask again, the Lord to bless everybody, bless Alaska, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.